Well, this feels terrible. I, like many others in the country and probably the world, am incredibly disappointed at the decision the collective of this country made the other day. So upset, in fact, that it spurred me to launch this YouTube channel. I need somewhere to push all of this energy before it consumes me entirely. See, I'm naturally a very optimistic individual, always forcing myself to see the good in things, scrambling for silver linings, and annoying my friends and family who sometimes just want to be sad. My least favorite part of this experience was the acute feeling that this aspect of my personality broke in some way. I'm actually a little scared that it won't heal. That in some strange way I've changed forever. So I don't know, maybe creating a channel to discuss these things, to try and educate, to open up constructive dialogue with anyone willing to engage. Maybe I can force this part of myself to survive through use and repetition. With that said, I have to float in the negative for a bit longer because I need to explain how something that many would say was a routine election night could damage people on such a fundamental level. I feel the need to explain that this isn't some kind of sore loser knee-jerk reaction. In 2020, I was surrounded by family who voted for Donald Trump immediately after the election. And I understood their pain, but I distinctly remember their number one concern being gas prices. Oh, you just wait. By next year, gas prices will be back up at around $4 or more, they'd say to each other in frustration. I remember at one point ducking into the bathroom for a bit and looking up how much presidents can influence gas prices in the first place. The answer is not much, but that didn't really matter to anyone that day. I really wish I could say that my only concern with a 2025 Trump presidency was the gas prices and where they'd end up. I envy the feeling of a loss to a politician like Joe Biden, a guy so regular and uninspiring you could forget about him for a few months beyond the occasional dialogue gaffe funny enough to make the headlines. I, and by extension you, even those who voted for Trump, are all now in this limbo, awaiting his arrival to the White House. For some, they're happy about it right now, maybe relieved, hoping that he'll do some good for your financial situation like he's been promising you. But others are terrified, and I believe rightfully so. We have a ridiculous grocery list of priorities from Trump's agenda that would be unprecedented in our lifetimes, meaning we don't know how they'll shake out for our economy, foreign policy, our environment, and our collective future. Sure, maybe they won't all be bad enough to warrant the dread that Democrats are feeling right now, but we're all now just one step closer to the potential of finding out. It can be hard to find the motivation to continue doing much of anything when you don't know exactly how, but you feel like soon the rug will be pulled out from underneath you. That's how this decision has me feeling. Whether it's fully warranted or not, it's how we feel losing this particular election. I mean, will he pull out from NATO? He's talked about it. What does that look like? How does that destabilization of world power affect the wars going on in Europe and the Middle East? How would a move like that affect the stock market? And I don't know any of these things. Shit, even you who voted for him don't know. He doesn't know. We haven't done it before. But it can be pretty hard to imagine any of it being good. And will he impose tariffs at levels not seen since the 1800s? What does that look like? We don't know. Economists from all around are telling us, and Democrats really try to explain this, that if he implements them exactly how his plan has them laid out, it would increase prices across the board for American consumers. That's you and me. And apparently prices and the economy are why so many people are frustrated with the country and the Democratic establishment in the first place. So I can't imagine anybody liking these things getting worse. Will he try and remove the federal income tax? What does that look like? What will it be replaced with? How will critical infrastructure be paid for and built? How can Medicare and Social Security survive the drop in revenue? A change to the tax code like that won't be easy. What would this effect have on, well, again, the stock market? How exactly would it affect the cost of goods and services, especially over time? And what happens when the Department of Education is removed? What happens to FAFSA? How will future generations afford college, which is already too high? What happens to public school funding and school curriculums? Will the states be able to completely bolster these budgets? It's scary that we're just going to have to find out if and when the time comes. We don't know if he's actually going to do these things. He floats new ideas almost every time he talks, especially this time around, as he's picking a cabinet who's specifically going to be loyal to him. And I know that sounds hyperbole, but like that's what they're saying. That's the point. These people aren't going to question his tactics, what he wants. So when an idea is bad, who's going to tell him? And that leads right into Elon Musk is going to be getting a spot in Trump's cabinet or in some sort of advisory role or the head of some department. He's the CEO of 3 companies currently. What does it mean for Tesla's EV competition? Or for NASA if he's having a direct conflict of interest within the White House? Or take RFK Jr., a man incredibly prone to misinformation, in charge of a health department? What does that mean for the future of the FDA? We already see flare-ups of lunch meats or McDonald's sandwiches making people sick or dying every few weeks. Do we really need whole sections of that agency wiped out at the snap of his fingers? And I'm scared to find out. And I'm not saying that all of these things will happen. I'm not even saying that if some do, that they'll be particularly cataclysmic or even bad. But even if just one of the plethora of unfounded policy ideas from this future Trump administration is adopted and turns out to actually be a terrible idea, it'll be too late. And it will hurt all of us in potentially unprecedented ways. And the feeling I and many others are experiencing in the wake of America willingly loading that gun and setting it on the table to play Russian roulette with is knowing that the odds are against the thought that the next 4 years will amount to anything we could describe as good. And now all we can do is brace ourselves and hope the impact isn't that severe, while at the same time listen to some cheer on the impending bad decisions as if they're credible. That's hard. But kind of routing back to the point of this channel, I want this to be a place of discussion, positivity, and hopefully conversations between people of all political beliefs on how we can truly make this country a better place to live and work in. There are a ton of lessons to learn from this election, and these lessons will continue to reveal themselves as time goes on and hindsight becomes a thing. But one that sticks out to me early on is we need to find a common reality with our friends, family, and fellow citizens that all felt that Trump was an appropriate outlet for their frustration. We can't discount or hand wave their feelings. We need to recognize that these are feelings we share with them as well. These are frustrations that we feel as well. But we can't even begin to have constructive conversations about these things when we can't agree on what's even real or not. Take the objective nature of the economic assessment on both Trump and Harris's agendas. When I presented the fact that Trump's plan will continue to exacerbate the economic pain that us regular people have been feeling, I was met with excuses, indifference, disbelief, and random pivots to Trump floating the idea of removing the federal income tax, even though his PDF agenda has zero mention of this whatsoever, let alone how they'd go about a 100% overhaul of the way taxes are conducted in this country. This isn't just a difference in opinion. This is a willful ignorance of fact. The beginning of a course correct within the national conversation, I think, begins simply with just more people speaking out, attempting to build platforms such as this YouTube channel with the goal of offering realistic discussions and solutions. I know that I alone can't compete with organizations such as the Daily Wire, but if I can do even a little bit to inspire hope and promote open dialogue and combat the incessant barrage of misinformation and false narratives, I hope I can work towards rebuilding my optimism. Thanks for watching.